Hi, I'm Talisa, the owner of 10x Marketing Consultancy, where we help businesses to 10x their lead generation with content marketing strategies.
I'm Josh from Big Sky Creative. Since 2011, we've been helping brands grow online through creative video content.
And I'm James, and I've worked in audio my whole life, and now I run Sound Media, where we help brands to create amazing podcasts for their business. Together, we want to help you create better content. Welcome to Content360. Right, today we are looking at content planning, and there's kind of loads of little things that have kind of led us to picking this as a subject, because it's quite a wide-ranging topic when we say content planning, and there's lots of elements that make it up. But I sense that we probably all tackle this subject slightly differently ourselves, and it's a really interesting one to discuss and start kind of discovering what works for might work for you, but maybe doesn't work for me, that might work for you, and similarly kind of best practice and stuff that should really be avoided. And actually, I think there's probably a lot of people that just don't put enough into planning that they should do. So how do we all go about planning our content? Josh, how do you plan yours?
For us, it's mainly about, so we pick a subject, or it can be quite a broad subject, but in a month we'll talk about a certain thing. So this month coming up, it's more behind the scenes of how we tackled the big choir concert. And the content over the next 4 weeks will be about that. And we will put together, put in the calendar a day aside for us to then film whatever we need to film in addition to what we've done behind the scenes out on site, and make sure we've pulled all the content together. It's sat in a folder ready to go. I think the number one rule for us is you can't just hit a month and just wing it and just think, oh, I haven't posted in a few days, I'll just stick something out. Because that's when you start to put out bad content and you'll start to either just get less engagement. You actually had to have a bit of thought up front about what am I going to speak about and pulling that content together prior to just posting away.
So is all your content ultimately video?
Pretty much. It's either everything we put out has got to have some kind of image, but then again, that's our business. That's what we do. So it doesn't have to always be a video. It might be a photo as well, but there needs to be something visual with every single post.
All right. And how do you actually plan it then? Is it written on a whiteboard? Is it a shared document? How do you kind of go about deciding what you're going to put out on what day?
Everything lives in Google Docs in our business. So we've got a folder which will say content for July, content for August. And then we have like evergreen content as well, so just pictures of me and Jake editing or behind cameras. So if we don't have quite enough content, we do have a bit of a fallback plan for, or we just need to say we're out on site filming today and there's a picture of us with the camera. But yeah, it's done via a spreadsheet. And we have like the hero piece for the month, and then some slightly so that might be your behind the scenes vlog we did at YouTube, and then the shorter ones will be maybe turn into reels, so little sections of that vlog become shorter reels, and then the base pieces are just pictures with a bit of context in the description.
Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned Google Docs, because I'm very much the same in that it's a Google sheet that's kind of like my crib, I guess, when it comes to content. So I have a day a month where I put aside, and the next full month that's coming up, so maybe like, I don't know, the 10th of the month, I'll plan out the whole of the following month, and I try and plan out a mixture of blog content, try to do 2 a week, and other things. I'll kind of go through various calendars, what's happening in the podcasting world, what's happening in the wider world that I might want to tap into, what's happening in my own world. If I'm doing a day recording with someone, I might think, that actually is going to be my content for that day, posting an image from it, and just go through and plan out the whole month, and then plan what each thing that I'm doing will be. So some will be a website piece, some will just be a photograph, some will be an image that I need to then go and create on Canva, and just plan out the whole month. And what I try and do as well, which maybe is a little bit different from what you're doing, but maybe not actually, because I've seen some of the stuff that you do, is try and get a blend of stuff that's very like, about what I'm doing in the business, and then stuff that's a little bit more personal, kind of 2 or 3 posts a month that are just kind of about what's sort of going on in my own world, I guess, to try and keep that sort of balance, so that I've got my Google sheet that's kind of like, at a glance I can see, right, this is the month of content that I've got planned. I'm quite happy with the mix of different stuff within it. There's some heavier pieces, there's some lighter pieces, and I also then can figure out, all right, I know I've got to put a good half a day aside to work on that blog for that day, but actually then the next day I probably don't need to do too much content work because I'm just posting a photograph of an event I've been to or something like that. So that's kind of how I tackle doing my content.
From my side, I guess we do, a whole range of different content pieces similar to you guys. So at the start of the year, we'll always say, right, what are the 100% deliverables that we're going to do every single month to be consistent? So for us, we do 10x, a post goes out on social media every day. We then also do an email every month. We try and do a couple of videos per month. We try and do 2 blog posts a month. And we'll also factor in when those lead magnets are going to pop in as well. So from that, if we're then looking at going into each month, we use Trello. So everyone knows I love Trello. So that's kind of where we plan all our content out on in terms of social media posts. So we use that, but then we've also got different folders that we create that we, if we're going for a month and we're seeing different things that we think, oh, that would be good for a post idea, we've kind of got a place to keep all those kind of content generation ideas as well. So then when we go and do that full day to say, right, what's coming up for the next 4 weeks, we can look in that and say, okay, what have we seen? What did we like? What can we pull out on that? So we do have that side, but I think it's important as well to not be so hard on yourself if you do want to do some reactive things as well, because it's like today, yes, there's a post going out on 10x social media, but I'll probably, maybe do something different myself personally to say this is where I've been today. And I think having those reactive style things in there is good as well as the pre-planned. For clients though, we'll do it all on like an Excel document each single day. We'll do 4 weeks before, put it all in, and we do kind of have 3 kind of content categories that we kind of pull ideas from, which is classed as the 3 E's, which I think I spoke about on a couple of podcasts before. So we've got like the education category, so what have we got to educate people around. We've got the emote category, which is then testimonials, case studies, success stories, and then the entertain one, which is you might be pulling off like national awareness days, personality pieces, things that might be going on in the business. So when we're planning out like client content, we'll make sure we try and hit within a week kind of those 3 points as well. Yeah,
it's good to have that mix, isn't it? And such an important point you touch on in there in terms of the fact that it's absolutely right that we do plan all this, but sometimes, I'm not going to call it over planning, but sometimes something will happen and you do need to change your plan at short notice, and you shouldn't be so rigid to say, well, actually I can't react to this thing that's happened because my content for today is such and such. You should give yourself the flexibility to adjust as you go, shouldn't you?
Yeah, and I do say to my clients, if there's anything that you come across that you think, I'd love to do a post on this today because this is going on, I said, don't ever be afraid to kind of send that over to me, because whatever we have got planned, if there's something going out on that day, we can move it around accordingly to accommodate something that's more reactive, that might get a bit more engagement because it's something that's going on with different people.
I think stories are a good tool as well.
Yeah.
So you might have your plan for your main post, your main wall, or whatever it is what you're going to populate through the month. But stories are a really good way to do something a bit less formal and more reactive. So if you do just happen to have something really cool on the day, you want to share it, get that on your stories. And for us, we don't post every single day because it's kind of hard to do a video every single day. But stories will, in general, will have something on there. Just saying, this is where we are today, it's what we've been doing, that kind of thing. And that's where I think for us you can be a bit more personal as well, and just show a bit more of your character rather than being all about this is the business.
Absolutely.
What we've not touched on yet then is platforms. So you talk about stories. Where are you posting your stories to?
So we post stories through Instagram, and then we let them flow over to Facebook as well. Facebook we do still keep up with, but out of our platforms now, that is our worst performing platform. But we do still make sure it's populated, because there are still people who use that for business, isn't there? So it's good to keep that moving. But stories go through Instagram. And I know before we started rolling with the cameras, we mentioned LinkedIn stories as well. And that's something where I think we need to make more of an effort to start putting through. I'm just starting to see a bit of traction right now. People are starting to use it.
It's
what your
interesting,
thoughts
isn't
are
it?
on that.
I was literally looking at my phone thinking, I think they've got rid of stories. I couldn't find it initially, and then it's just kind of moved a little bit and moved a little bit further down your feed. But definitely a resource that I don't use enough. I mean, stories generally across various platforms, I don't do very much with, and that is, we've talked in a previous episode about LinkedIn specifically and about best practice there, about posting once a day is kind of where you really want to be in order to give your post the best chance of doing as well as they can do. But then stories gives you that option of just dipping into slightly more, it's kind of informal content, isn't it? It's a little bit more kind of passing stuff that's maybe not really worth being your main bit of content for a day, but gives you extra ways to drop in that slightly more personal and slightly more entertaining stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And I know you asked the question of, if you are posting once a day on your LinkedIn, which is, recommended, if you're doing stuff on stories as well, does it, conflict the algorithm? It doesn't. I have seen that people say, in terms of stories for Instagram and LinkedIn, like 3 to 4 a day is a good amount.
Yeah.
But even for us on stories, because you've not got it pre-planned, we sometimes forget about it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I said to my team last week, actually, I said, right, there's 3 of us now full-time in the team. Why don't we take a day each? And we'll say, right, on that day, you're responsible for stories. So, showcase what you might be doing today, showcase the work that you're doing. And it just makes sure that there's someone accountable then. And it's not just, who's going to put this on? Or so it's actually creating a deliverable. So that's what we said we're going to try and start doing from tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's good, yeah.
Each day someone take it to say, okay, let's showcase what you're up to.
I did think about doing a sweepstake to see how many minutes into the podcast we'd get before Trello got mentioned. It was just over 5 minutes. But that's come up. Google Docs, Google Sheets has come up as well. Any other tools that we kind of use that are really useful for this? And I guess probably first question to ask you, Talisa, is how do you actually use Trello then for planning content?
Yeah, so I've got a board on there which has all the different categories for us at 10x, so all different services, and we'll just add in, our ideas onto there and plan on what we're going to do. But when I actually do it for clients, I do actually use Excel and have it as like a, a day-to-day, week-by-week kind of process to show that. But yeah, Trello for us is kind of where we dump all our ideas, but we'll also use, there's a lot of Instagram content that we see which we think, oh, that'd be cool as like an additional post, and we'll just save it, and then we'll keep going back into our saved items and looking, okay, what did we like, what did we see? So yeah, that's how I use it in terms of Trello at the moment.
Yeah, anything else you use?
Just Google Docs mainly. On the day of actually planning the content I just like a good old-fashioned whiteboard.
Yeah.
Because you can just get it on there, get it all on the wall, and then while you're creating your content, you just tick it off as you go, and then it gets committed to when are we going to use this?
Yeah. Old school.
But yeah, I like it. We do a lot of that in the office as well. When we're doing client work, we've got you've seen it this morning, a big list of what we've got in the editing board and who's going to tackle it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just think that's the simplest way.
So once you've now got you've got all your ideas for your content, you've got your plan, do you use any scheduling tools so you don't have to keep manually doing it each day, or how
I don't for video, because a lot of the scheduling tools don't really work. Yeah, you try and make sure your video under a certain size, or it degrades the quality. It's just so, because it's not good for us to put out something that doesn't look great, we don't use it, just because they don't play nicely with video files, basically.
Yeah. So we do use one scheduling tool, and it's called Social Bee. And what is quite good about that platform is it allows you to create like content folder categories as well. So you might have a category on there which is evergreen content. So it might be stuff to promote, lead magnets, and it'll just keep like recircling on the days that you want it to kind of post. So you might say, I want to post about it every second Wednesday, over the next 6 months, and after the 6 months it kind of recircles back through again. Right, so it's quite good that you've got those kind of content folders in there. It's a little bit different compared to other scheduling platforms.
My content is probably not complex enough to really justify using a scheduling tool kind of full time, but I do dip in and out of using Hootsuite, which I find quite useful. What I really like there is the fact that you can see exactly how a post is going to look on the different platforms it's going to post it on, and I think that's really nice, particularly because something can look so much different as a tweet as it would do on Instagram. So I do find that really useful for some of the stuff that I do. But yeah, I mean, scheduling platforms I worry sometimes have got a bit of a reputation as just being far too expensive, and people sort of think, without even looking at them, I can't really, I won't be able to afford that. But there is a balancing thing there, isn't there? If you're doing a lot of content and it's saving you a lot of time, what is the value of that time you're getting back?
Yeah, and to be fair, the tool that I use it for 10x, and I use it for, the 20 other clients that I do social media for. So if I were doing 20 different posts every day, it'd probably take me half a day to do it all anyway for the different clients. So for me, it's, it's a no-brainer, but there's definitely times where you do manual posts as well, where it's needed.
Okay.
I think the inbuilt Facebook one's actually pretty good as well.
I've heard, actually, on the grapevine that allows you to do swipe posts in there now.
Right.
Instagram, which not many platforms do. So if anyone wants that, then it's something to have a look at.
What we do a lot of time as well is we'll create a folder full of little 30-second videos, and I'll just upload them all through the Facebook business back end, and it just sits there, draft posts, and then if we're out on the road, then we don't have to deal with uploading and stopping stopping at a coffee place.
Yeah,
they're there, and literally I just go on my phone, look in the drafts, and right, well, today we're going to use this one, add in my text, and we're away. So that's how we use that, and that can then cross post to Instagram for you, which is pretty good. It's
All
built
right.
in, it's free.
Let's look at this from the other side then. Let's look at what really doesn't work, what is really bad practice. And I'm sure that we have all seen people who you can tell a mile off don't have a plan for their content, because it is always the same sort of stuff, or it is, I think the thing that I dislike the most is seeing people that are just always trying to sell rather than having that sort of blend of different stuff that they're doing and creating. So yeah, any bad practice that really stands out?
People who are just posting because they feel like they've forgotten and they should do. Like if you're just sticking out some random picture that's got nothing really to do with what you're doing at 11 p.m. on a Friday night with a bunch of hashtags and no actual real substance to it, it's like, well, you've obviously forgotten to deal with it and nobody's really going to engage with it. I think you should try and avoid doing that if at all possible.
Another thing that I see quite often is you can tell where someone has just used the same kind of caption and hashtags for every single platform. They've not tailored it to what platform they're going on. Like Instagram, there's no point in putting a website link in your caption because no one can click on it and it's annoying as hell. And it's just about people not doing that extra due diligence really in terms of tailoring for the platforms that they're posting on. They'll just post it out on everywhere and hope for the best.
I'm probably here touching on something that would be an episode by itself, and probably something that we will do at some point in terms of looking at the different platforms and what works quite well for what. But talking there about web links not working on Instagram and stuff like that, is there that risk of people that put out content on every platform when actually they probably shouldn't be doing?
Yeah.
Definitely exists, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That kind of risk of sometimes actually you see someone that you think what you're doing is just so much better suited to just keep it on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I do quite a lot of stuff that I will only put on LinkedIn, don't put it on Twitter or anywhere else. And similarly, there's stuff that I would only tweet about that I wouldn't even think about putting on my LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to understand the platforms that you've got and what content is relevant to that audience on that platform.
Yeah. If you're an Instagram user, there's nothing more annoying than seeing a post by someone that clearly doesn't understand that platform or has just not put enough thought into it. They're not going to want to do business with you either. They're not going to find out what you do and kind of get to know you anymore when you've not taken that little bit of time just to appreciate the platform that you're using.
Yeah. I guess another area as well is, posting times. You can see that people might, not think about when they're posting for their audience. So all my clients that I do social media for, I post at all different times because I've worked out when their audience is most active on those platforms. So again, it's just a bit more of a pre-planning style thought of when is best to post.
All right. So I'm going to pull together from all the stuff we've talked about 3 steps for maybe someone who at the moment isn't really kind of planning their content very much, that's doing stuff very ad hoc, that kind of thinks, I want to start doing this, but I don't really know what to do. So the first thing, we're going to say Trello. So get yourself a free Trello account. Doesn't need to be a paid one. Get a free one, and set up a board and just start putting ideas in there. So just whether you're doing that on the fly all the time, if you think about something, it can even be you see something that someone else does and you think, I could do that for mine. Stick it on your Trello board and start building up a kind of a catalogue of ideas.
'Cause it helps when you do then come to that planning day that you're not starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So that I think would be step 1. Step 2, going to steal what you do with your whiteboard and say, put some time aside and go back into that Trello board actually start figuring out, right, what's going to work where, and start planning out stuff a little bit more visually, and working out, actually these are going to work together as a series of content, or actually I'm going to do that as a blog and I'm going to do this as something else. So kind of have a little bit of a, I guess you'd say brainstorming, or kind of, thrashing out, turning those ideas into something more of a plan. And then from what I do, set yourself up, be it a Google sheet or you mentioned Excel, and actually then start putting some dates and some ideas down and creating columns for different platforms and figuring out on what day you're going to post what and where. And I think they're 3 pretty easy steps that someone could use to then start putting together the bare bones of a content plan. And they're going to want to change it. People are going to want to make it their own, but that gives a good starting point, I reckon.
And I think it's an important message that when you are putting that day in the calendar, make it like non-negotiable. Don't think, oh, I'm too busy for it. Once that's in that calendar, you got to stick to it and actually, make yourself accountable to go for it on that day.
Book it in like you would a client job. It's easy, especially when you're running a small business, to get into that trap where you're so busy doing client work that you forget to promote and talk about yourself. And then once you delivered all that, you have that lull of a few weeks where, right, now I'll start marketing. You had that sort of yo-yo effect, don't you? So it is really important to say, right, this day is as important as any other day in the business.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Some really useful stuff in there, and hopefully we've given people some different ideas to think about in terms of how to go about planning and ultimately creating content. So good stuff. Right, thank you for joining us. You can find all our episodes at content360.fm, where you can also find out more about us, and you can get in touch with us as well. We'll catch you next time on Content 360.